So I got through the interview this morning, and it was unfortunate that my side of the conversation was not recorded. Um, I figured out what the problem was later, but with time constraints, we weren't able to redo the interview. Um, Fortunately, you can understand what's going on in the post. So, um, you know, I thought I was being, uh, contributing to the conversation, but as it turns out, Corey was easily able to get his point across without me having to interject with my goofy laughter every 5 minutes. But um, I just wanted to say that I'm really, really proud to have this piece on our blog, and um, it's by far what we're hoping to have. Basically, something that can help people, something experiences from people's lives that are personal and powerful, really. And at the same time, it's entertaining. Um, I certainly got a few chuckles, and to see that you can get through something difficult and be able to joke about it later is a powerful thing, and it's entertaining. It's sobering, So it's a great piece, and I'm glad that we get to bring it to you.
The title is the name of a song by a band that I've been a fan of for like ages. I think since I was in high school, called Killing Joke. Yeah, and it's off of their 2003 self-titled album, which I actually didn't discover until like maybe last year. And this is like the lead-in song, and it's sort of like epic. I mean, a song that just like it starts off and it starts building, and it's like layers upon layers upon layers, and it just completely extends this huge crescendo and just does things that's like wow. But the title stuck to me for some reason. It's kind of like there's like in I think in everybody's brain there's sort of like this big giant filter or this fly paper, and certain things stick to it. You And the things that stick in there a lot of times are what you wind up using in your work or just things, stuff like that. And that stuck, it wouldn't leave. Keep saying, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I can't stop thinking about that title. The piece really is on, like I said, just like the song, it's layered piece about a lot of things, but mainly it's about what I went through in 2012, which is possibly, well, there is no possibly, it is the worst year of my life. Definitely as an adult. I mean, because everything that could possibly go wrong did go wrong. Most part, I mean, my mom died. Um, the majority of her side of the family, with a couple of exceptions, pretty much tossed me underneath of the bus. I mean, pretty much they'd already done it anyway, even before she passed, because we had a situation in Detroit where I had to take her up there for a funeral, which by train, which I highly recommend if you really, really, really want to, have a nervous breakdown, cross country. But we went up there, and the treatment pretty much let me know what we were dealing with. Like getting stood up at the hotel on the night of the wake, because yeah, basically nobody came to get us, and then I'm like, wow, okay, and they were kind of like, oh, I thought that person was going to get you. It was a lot of finger pointing, and then it happened again the next day for the funeral, and the only reason we were able to go is because my cousin, who's a nurse who lives in North Carolina, just happened to be staying at the hotel, and thank God she was, because otherwise pretty much we would have been ass out, and we rode with her. Then they didn't want to let us in the funeral because it had already started until I had to basically turn into scary black man, you know. And it's like I just basically had to lean into the person at the door and do my best, Dennis Haysbert voice, and just say, "You're gonna live again." And there's this one thing you can do to really freak people out is don't blink the entire time that you're talking. It's something very simple, but it will unnerve the living hell out of people and freak them out. Or you develop a little twitch. I've had to do that like a lot in retail work and temp jobs, and it's really worked for me. So yeah. I think I did it more so because for time purposes. I really just wanted to get to the heart, like strip away all of the muscle and sinew and get to right to the bone and get in there till I get to the very marrow of what it is that piece is. I mean, there are a lot of other things I could have put in there, but I really wanted to get the essence,
Yeah.
and I think for the most part I did. There are a few. It's kind of like dealing with my mom's church, who, in addition to forgetting to print up the programs, that one, called herself compensating it by somebody running downstairs, and photocopying the obituary, and then handing it out like that was some kind of like placebo. And I'm like, I don't need this because I fucking wrote it, and I know you just did this because they're still warm. And I was thinking, but the way that her church was, I'm surprised they weren't so cheap. They didn't have a mimeograph machine down there. But I just had this image of, bringing mimeographs into that basically set of people might have not been the best thing to do, because there are several people there with, let's just say, addictive personalities. And, like back in the day when they used to hand you the mimeograph and everybody takes it and simultaneously just goes, yeah. So I see for some reason everybody inhaling it, and then, that probably would have made a situation worse. But I left that out because, I also left out that besides all this, the pastor very passive aggressively found a way to get the head deacon to kind of very subtly imply that he really would require some kind of a quote unquote donation. This It was right after I got finished explaining the fact that I barely had enough money from my mom's insurance to pay for the funeral, and we were going to have to go as, excuse the bad pun, bare bones as it was humanly possible. I mean, I almost was willing to, even consider cremation, but my mother, when she was still alive, had told me if I'd ever consider that, she would haunt the shit out of me. And I was like, yeah. The service was possibly one of the worst I have ever witnessed, and not just because it was my mom's, but it was just so shoddily put together. There were no flowers except for one bouquet that one of my cousins in Detroit had actually had sent down, which was great of him. But oddly enough, nobody else sent flowers. And my mom had been a member of this church since 1967, and she was kind of like, the Gene Hackman of the Baptist church, because she was in everything, and a lot of people showed up. But I'm surprised with the humongous cacophony of people that there was only one bouquet of flowers. That was just really off-putting. Some members that, like I said before, that I think have been there and have been helpful, and who were great. There were a lot of people, who shall remain nameless, but they know who the fuck they are, who really just went like AWOL and were nowhere to be found. I mean, I like I mentioned there, I had an uncle who, lives in North Carolina, who actually would come up to Baltimore, because he originally used to live there, for like cookouts and other little things with his in-laws, and then turn around and go right back without even so much as saying, hey, how you doing, coming by to see, or even making a phone call. I actually, one of his daughters had to literally drag him to go see my mom. This happened like maybe twice. I think once when she was still living at the apartment, and then in one of many nursing homes she will wind up in. And it's kind of upsetting, because this is a same uncle who actually at one point had his own bout with colon cancer. I'm sorry, prostate cancer, and helped in terms of helping him get better. And it's interesting how it just sort of went, and everything was really disturbing. Like I said, the level of apathy in on her side of the family. I mean, not everybody, but an abnormally huge amount of people is astonishing. A lot of things, really. I mean, because I went through like this really intense period of depression even before she passed. I mean, because I was dealing with a lot. I mean, in terms of dealing with her illness, But in addition to that, finding out just how completely and totally fucked up the what's the right word? The health industry is, especially nursing homes, rehabilitation centers, Medicare, Medicaid, and how crooked a lot of them are. One of the last ones she wound up in was a place called Future Care, which, interestingly enough, it turned out that my godbrother actually had his dad in, and the minute he found out my mom was there, he actually called me, um, found me, and we actually talked in person, and I found out some horrible things that just seemed like something out of like a really, really, really disturbing episode of like Dateline. Oh, I was waiting for Stone Phillips to show up in the background, going, "We'll be right back." But it was horrible, and it kept getting worse and worse and worse, and all these other things kept happening. It, basically, bad things never just happen in individually. It's always in groups. You know, it's always a clusterfuck. It's never just one thing. And I really like was wanted to go and look back at my birth certificate and make sure that my middle name actually wasn't Job, and I was just waiting for the plague of locusts to show. Like I mentioned, that one cousin found a way to make the situation even more difficult. Insisting that I need to make my mother a priority, and I'm like, I kind of did because I left my job in 2008, and I've been her caregiver ever since. Even at one point when I refused to sign off on the Medicaid thing, which basically would have taken her monthly check, the same thing that was at the time paying the rent, even though, I mean, I was working, but I can only work part time because during the week I have to try and keep an eye on them because so much crap was going on. My cousin found a way to make the situation worse because when she found out I wasn't going to sign off on this stuff, the place where they sent my mother next, she actually called and told them, oh, if he doesn't sign the Medicaid papers, to let her know. And I'm like, and what the hell are you going to do? This is also the same person that had no idea, one, what type of cancer that my mom had, two, who any of her doctors were, and three, she couldn't even name any of her medications. And this is somebody that sporadically showed up and everything like that, like, once in a blue moon. And people like that often usually try to compensate by being as much of an obnoxious cunt as they possibly can, as if that's actually, doing anything. It's really for their own benefit, not for yours and not for your loved ones that's sick. It's, so they could go, oh, well, I showed her. And no, you didn't show. You just showed how much of a cunt you are. And it's really just about their own ego. It's really just a performance. I mean, really, there should be like a list of closing credits after it's done, you know, with like for the Screen Actors Guild down at the bottom. And everybody has like somebody like that in their family that they have to deal with, And it basically, just to wrap this up, is the fact that I really had to get to the point where I have to just literally cut them all off. It's something that's dramatic and huge, but sometimes the only way that you can really deal with your life, getting better, is to cut out all of the negative people that really don't have any business being in there in the first place. And sometimes it just happens to be some members of your own family, but is necessary. This is a situation where, like I said, these people are possibly some of the most apathetic people that I've ever encountered in my entire life. No, they are the most apathetic people I've ever encountered in my life, and it's really not done to show or teach them anything. It's just really a form of closure because your presence is no longer requested, so please vacate the premises immediately, before the hounds are unleashed. And like my dad's side of the family, stuff like that, they were for the most part really great. There are members of my mom's side of the family who were especially helpful and things like that, and I greatly appreciate it. But there are people, like I said, essentially who, yeah, I mean, I'm not doing it to get back at them or some shit. I'm not doing it Christina Crawford or anything like that. But it's really just a form of closure. And if it bothers them, and basically, if the shoe fits, bludgeon yourself with it.